All right, so thank you so much for joining the key lessons of the Infinite Way today. It's really lovely. We are doing lesson 7, the 7th key lesson of the Infinite Way, and that has everything to do with not being the body, not being in the body or not being the body, but seeing the body as a means, not as an end. So this comes back in what we will listen to and in the meditation. So Joel there's this one tape, Putting Off the Old Man, and Rebirth is one of his talks. He did it twice. This is the only one that he did twice, because he actually, in this tape that we're going to listen to, he's actually reading the transcript. And of course not really reading it, but really demonstrating it, but also like doing it over because the recording was so bad. So he wanted everyone to have a good recording of this. So that must be an important one. So that's why I had like, okay, let's use that and listen to that later. We're going to listen to the first half hour later on. Now today there's a meditation. We used 1 Corinthians 15, and it is a classic expression, Bible expression. You probably have heard of it before. So it's like about you in the twinkling of an eye being changed, and seeing that death has no worth in the whole story, that it really does not exist as we know it. As we know it from our human existence, being the one thing that you know for sure, like the only certainty as a human being that you have is, this will come to an end. And it might be soon, it might be taking some time, but at least it's not really something that you want to do, but it's inevitable. This is how we know death to be. And as human beings, of course. So now in our transformed, in a path of awakening, in the key lessons of the Infinite Way, we hear different. We hear like, same as in the New Testament, 1 Corinthians, Paul is sharing with us, it's like, well, death, where's your sting? Where's your victory? Like you try to keep a bargain that doesn't work forever. It's like it's not going to work no matter what you try to do. There's no such thing as death. And so that's, except for the idea that it's a liberation, you have to make this your own experience. And of making it, it's more like there's in fact nothing in the way to experience your wholeness. But at the same time, it is not just reading the words or not just listening to the tapes. No, it's like, what are you demonstrating? Joel will certainly remember us of that. So that's important. In other words, we come closer and closer and closer to our individual experience with this. It's like we have experiences with being stirred within, like by spirit. In fact, something has touched you, otherwise you wouldn't even listen to this. Now that goes further and further. It's like you can allow that more and more and more to let this, come back to you on a daily basis, letting yourself be touched by spirit and coming into the practice of releasing everything else and coming into this stillness, in this quiet zone within yourself where that can happen. By releasing ideas that were occupying your mind a moment ago, by releasing ideas of what you think is happening to someone else, or what you think is happening to you, or what the future will bring, or any of those considerations that is like inevitable for a human mind, but has absolutely no value in discovering the truth of who you are. Now, I can say these words, and this is where it comes down to then. It's like, it comes down to, are you willing to let something occur to you? Are you willing to put off the old man and be transformed, to be coming into a procedure or to an experience of rebirth? And then it's like, now you come to the point where you see, like, well, is there really an alternative? No, there isn't. It's like, this is what I want. I want to be in the recognition of the truth of who I am. And yeah, whatever needs to happen for that, I want that to occur, because I don't want to invest in time-related limitations, or in images, or in ideas that I can make up about myself and about others. It becomes less and less attractive. So to give space for a new experience within myself, within my consciousness, is everything. It's everything. Is literally discovering what you always knew to be true. And I always start with this. It's like the love for your brother. Like, are you allowing yourself to feel the love for your brother so deeply that literally nothing else matters any longer in that moment? And can you feel that love for God, like so deeply, feeling that you're completely lifted up out of your own construct, but being lifted out of it into such a pure love for God? That is your gift to God. That is your moment of being alive. And all the considerations you made a moment before was what death was. It's like, no, raising up the dead is really you coming to life by your love for your brother and for God. That is what raising the dead means. It's not that we have to get people out of their graves or anything. No, that would be a crazy idea. No, but you allowing yourself to love without limitation is everything. Is where you come to life, where you start to come into the experience that everything starts to make sense, because the only purpose of it was to remember that you can do that. So that's just so lovely to share and to experience, that I can't stop myself from repeating that and expressing that and demonstrating that. So in whatever way that is given, that's wonderful. All right, so the meditation today, then, to start with that, because becoming quiet in this is really helpful, just to calm down all the concepts, or even all the associations that are coming up by me sharing what I share right now. It's like, let it all calm down. You don't need to do anything with it. No, you recognize what I share. That was the only necessary part. Like this recognition is what speeds the whole thing up. Mystery and victory. I tell you this, brothers. Flesh and blood cannot inherit the kingdom of God, nor does the perishable inherit the imperishable. Behold, I tell you a mystery. We shall not all sleep, but we shall all be changed in a moment, in the twinkling of an eye, at the last trumpet. For the trumpet will sound, and the dead will be raised imperishable, and we shall be changed. For this perishable body must put on the imperishable, and this mortal body must put on immortality. When the perishable puts on the imperishable, and the mortal puts on immortality, then shall come to pass the saying that is written, Death is swallowed up in victory. O death, where is your victory? O death, where is your sting? The sting of death is sin, and the power of sin is the law. But thanks be to God, who gives us the victory through our Lord Jesus Christ. Therefore, my beloved brother, be steadfast, immovable, always abounding in the work of the Lord, knowing that in the Lord your labor is not in vain. Thank you. Thank you so much for joining, and to be completely still for a moment and go inward. And yeah, that's just totally lovely. Thank you so much. So we continue now with the preparation for listening to Joel's talk, and the talk that he did. And so putting off the old man and rebirth. So that is quite a theme. And so I'm using some expressions of him that really stood out to me that I love to share. So I'm going to start with that right away. The body as means or end is where it comes down to. We are not in the body. Our true self is not the physical body. The I is not limited by time, space, or place. And the I that I am is not limited by time, space, or place. The body is simply an instrument. And the fear of death is the result of mistaking the body for our true identity. So this says quite a bit, because it's like we're not a body. Our true self is not a physical body. Oops. It's like, okay, yeah, sure. And the I is not limited by time, space, or place. Now, here is your experience of yourself. Like, do you see the body as simply an instrument? And are you afraid of death or not? Like, if that's the case, if you experience fear for death, then you believe yourself to be something that is temporal. Now, this all is good. All is good. I cannot say it any other way. It's like everything is good, but I walk around here on planet Earth as a body, and that's kind of in the way, in my experience of myself, is not being a body, because I cannot do as if it is not there. I have to take care of it. Otherwise, it's getting a kind of messy too. So you see that makes it a paradox. Like, you walk around on planet Earth, if that's the case, then you find yourself in a body. So are you limited by time and space? Well, in your physical experience of yourself, you probably are limited in time and space, because I don't know how it is for you, but if I start running and I can do that for, say, 10 minutes, half an hour, hopefully, but if I do that for more than 2 days, I would be totally exhausted, and I would not be able to do that. So there's a limit to that. And wherever that limit is, people start to stretch it by ultra sports or whatever, but it's like, well, however you think you can stretch it, for sure you can't do it forever. So whatever you're trying to prove to yourself is wonderful as a challenge, but it doesn't tell you anything about who you are. So rolling back that whole story, it's like, it's all great to hear that I'm not in the body, and it's all great to hear that I'm not this thing, but that thing is an instrument, like an interface to be able to communicate with my brothers, to do whatever I need to do. And so I use this thing. So don't confuse it with me either. It's like, I'm not that. I'm not that thing that you think I am. So you see that immediately there's a problem there, because here is Joel. You see Joel. It's like Joel's face. Is that Joel? No, that's not Joel. That's a picture of Joel. That's an image of Joel. And it has nothing to do with Joel at all. Same here. Same with you, by the way. It's like same with you. You're not who you think you are. Obviously not. But you are confused with that most of the day. Because you look in the mirror and you say like, wow, I'm not really looking any younger than yesterday. Or whatever the ideas that you have, like you associate with the images that you have, and make build an image, even like a non-physical image of yourself. Like, I'm probably on this timeline and appear to be like 25 years old, and whatever your age is. And now, all of that doesn't tell you anything about yourself. So here is an important part of the undoing that is taking place, the putting off the old man. And Joel says, well, whenever you read in the Bible, in, say, transformational, when you let truth come to you, like, he says, I don't care what truth book you use, but it's like when you start to apply that, or when you start to let it in fact, you are putting off the old man and are starting your rebirth. Now, this seems to be like an organic process in which slowly there's a conversion into a new being, which is you as an enlightened I am. And so that would be an evolutionary way of looking at it, but does it really go that way? Well, my experience is different, and different in the sense that not that it has to shift and shake immediately, but it's more like you catch glimpses of the truth of you. Suddenly there's a whole different experience that is not comparable to your earthly experience. That seems to be a total experience, and you discover, like I discovered, that I had nothing to do with it. It actually just happened by itself. So that came to me by grace, and this is what Joel says too. It comes to you by grace, and by you wanting it, but you cannot make it happen, because what you have done with yourself is making images of you, and this would then be another image. No, it comes to you by grace. Actually, you cannot do it, otherwise you would have done it. And you would be home in heaven and recognizing the true essence of yourself. If you would be able to do that, you would have done it. And that was not the way that it happened. So here are some real interesting things, because in fact, when we invite Jesus in the story, as Joel does too, like when you see that there's a resurrection that takes place, you see that is not, of course it was an individual experience of Jesus, but at the same time, like he died, so to speak. He put off the old Jesus and resurrected into the rebirth, into the new man, the spiritual man that suddenly is walking around in a whole new raiment, so to speak, into a spiritual body instead of a physical body, even though it seemed to have physical features at the time of his first days after the resurrection. But that's another story. But anyway, it's like, so this total experience of our one mind, because there is not of one consciousness, as Joel says, like conscious oneness of God. Oneness doesn't know any separation. Oneness doesn't know about other parts. In other words, it is whole and it is perfect. And that's why the resurrection took place. That's why your resurrection took place. And and you say like, well, okay, so how do you look at yourself right now then? It's like, well, what are you in fact demonstrating or practicing here? In this specific lesson, in this specific key lesson, we see that the body is not what you are. It's an end. It's not a mean. No, it's a mean. It's a means. It's not an end. It is not a thing in itself with which you identify completely. No, the identification is dissolving. And by that opens up a whole new experience of yourself. One that is first coming to you as glimpses of grace, suddenly as a revelation, and more and more and more as a deeper experience of something that you already were before. So what were you before? A resurrecting one, a resurrected body, you could say, or a whole consciousness. So this is not as difficult as it looks, in the sense, well, you don't have to understand this to undergo this. That is the beauty of it. You don't have to understand what's going on. Basically, you have to just stay with the practice, because that is sufficient. You think that you need to do a lot in order to awaken, but that's not the case. It's like, no, this comes to you by grace. By you opening up for grace, that occurs. So there's not much, there's no technique to come to it. There's no method to come to it. No, it is given to you by grace. So if it was depending on your doings and on your techniques and on all your, who knows what you try to do in order to awaken, if it would depend on that, and you would be able to do that, you would have done it. And you did not do that. So that's why we can trust what Joel is giving us. And slowly but certainly it's coming to us, but it's like, it's exactly in the right time altogether. That plan is not even yours in the first place. So it's like you can trust what's going on. Jesus went through his episode in this too. He did every step. He could not skip one little part of the story. But he ended in the same place as where you have ended and where you resurrected. So that's the beauty of this. That goes really far, I know, but it is like, this makes sense. It is even reasonable when I share it with you like this. It is reasonable. Now, Joel is going to share some more expression. I will do that right now too. Like from this transcript that we have. You must live by the word, and the word is the indwelling Christ. See, this is what we're talking about, the indwelling Christ, the indwelling Spirit of God. And placing my reliance there. See, this is a turning inward into the indwelling Christ, making contact with the Christ. How do you make contact with the Christ? By being still, but also by letting that become a total experience within yourself. In other words, releasing the fear for it, letting go of ideas that you think you are, or where your reliance is. Releasing that continuously, coming to letting yourself be stirred by Spirit. Letting yourself be melted by your love for God would be another way of saying it. So here it says, not placing my reliance outside in a bank account, or not placing my reliance outside in my family, not placing my reliance outside for external pleasures, but reserving some period of the day, of every day, for the realization the kingdom of God is within me. See, this is all part of the, I'm not this body that I confused myself to be. This, so all the things I do for its safety and comfort are in fact not doing anything in terms of finding who I truly am. No, it's a distraction, really. So you must live by the word, and the word is the indwelling Christ, the indwelling Spirit of God, and placing my reliance there. See, that's not just by saying that, that's not just by, it's like you demonstrate that by allowing yourself to be touched by Spirit? To what extent do you permit spiritual truths to occupy your consciousness? Not merely in reading. I must caution you about that. Not merely in reading. It is not the reading in and of itself that will develop your consciousness alone, but what you do with what you read. That's where it's about. In other words, in the application of what you learn. It's like you hear it first, you start to accept the ideas, but then you start to demonstrate the ideas, because they will literally give you the fullness of the experience. So here's a lesson. If you sow to the Spirit, you will reap corruption. If you sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption. Now, nobody invented this. Joel says it was just discovered centuries upon centuries ago, that if you sow to the flesh, you reap corruption. And what does that mean, sowing to the flesh? It just means that if you are going to make your body the end and aim of existence, if you are giving power to form outside of you, if you are giving power to material sense, like in sickness and all this, if you are relying on material good for your safety and comfort, for instance, you are sowing to the flesh. You are only sowing to the Spirit in the degree that you are transferring power from the outer realm to the inner. In the degree in which you say, no, my consciousness is my supply. My consciousness is my health. My consciousness is my good. Why? Because God has planted in me His Son, whose mission it is to heal the sick, to raise the dead, and feed the hungry. This Son, this Christ, is embodied in every individual's consciousness. See, I can say these words, but you feel the work that is there to do, because if this is just words, then you missed it. It's like, no, what Joel is actually, what he's sharing with you is an experience. He wants to pull you into the realm of the mystical experience, where you allow yourself to literally be transformed and coming into a rebirth in which you allow yourself to be different and not try to hold on to what is familiar to you from before. It's like seeing that the center of your existence is your body and making safe and all this, putting safety and comfort is where you're looking for your body. But now going beyond that, not that you have to sit in a cold room or anything, but it's more like now this goes beyond all these things that you can think about it. And this is a real invitation to go inward and deeply connect with what is there. What is there? It's like the Christ consciousness is embedded in your consciousness. Now your consciousness that opens up to become whole, to become a total part of this, because it is. So it's like everything else falls away. The safety that you were looking for in family was not, in fact, the goal of your journey, or the looking for safety in matter, in material things to comfort you, to have a nice day or a pleasurable event or who knows what. It's like, no, that was not where this was about. It doesn't exclude that you have fun, but it certainly is starting with something really deeply within you that you allow to be exposed to you, where you lose control in thinking that you're something else. No, you lose control in trying to manage yourself, and you lose control in trying to teach yourself, but you really become open for Spirit on a daily basis to let that be your guide. And like, I don't know what to do. I don't know how to respond to any of this, because it doesn't make sense to me what is happening here. Now show me. I will be still and listen to the truth. Like, I will be still. I'm your servant. I don't know. I just follow instructions. I'm an instrument of your love. Now tell me what to do, or how that works, or what that should look like, because I have no idea, and I don't want to make it up. I don't want to know how that works. And now show that to me, because in that I know it's not coming from my own consciousness, but from God's consciousness within me. And of course there's only one consciousness, but it's like I have my own, so to speak, my own human consciousness. And we can call it human mind or human consciousness. That's a bit the same. It's like your Christ consciousness is like a wide open consciousness that doesn't have individual ideas anymore that it entertains. And that's the difference. So your whole consciousness doesn't know anything. It has no opinion. It wouldn't know what to think about anything. So it also cannot judge. It cannot compare. It doesn't compete. This is you in your wholeness of yourself. So that is occurring in the process that you're undergoing in this transformation in the infinite way, or like what we teach now in the key lessons of the infinite way. So that's something else. Absolutely beautiful. All right, so I see it's time to listen to Joel. I'm going to pull up the tape, and we'll listen to the first half hour of the tape. And I'll see you after that.
Good evening. I am remaking Reel 4, Side 1 of the 1962 London Closed class, which is Putting Off the Old Man and Rebirth, so that our students will have a clearer and better tape of this particular class. When you touch the consciousness of an individual who has received spiritual grace, the spiritual touch, you are touching the full Christ consciousness. You are not touching the limited sense of consciousness of an individual. You are touching the full Christ consciousness. The reason is that Christ consciousness cannot be divided. You cannot have a part of Christ consciousness. You either have Christ consciousness or you have not. Of course, it is true that you might have Christ consciousness and not be fully aware of the pearl that you have, but that does not change the fact that you have it. Therefore, when anyone touches the consciousness of an individual who has received their spiritual light, they are touching the fullness of the Christ consciousness. That brings us to this. The purpose of a work like ours is dying to the old man, putting off the old man, and being reborn of the Spirit. Not being partially reborn, being wholly reborn. Putting on a whole new mind, that mind that was in Christ Jesus. Putting on a whole new consciousness. In the practical working out of this, you may not attain the realization of the fullness of this Christ consciousness in a moment. The reason is that Christ consciousness is not put on through the acquiring of knowledge, not even acquiring the knowledge of truth. You could know all of the truth that has ever been revealed in all of the philosophies and in all of the mysticisms, and still not have one single touch of Christ consciousness. You could know, well, quoting Paul, you hear it said often enough that we must be loving, that we must be generous, that we must be philanthropic. But Paul reminds us that if you gave away everything you had to the poor, it would be no indication that you are very close to the Spirit. It is not any degree of human wisdom or any degree of human goodness that you may attain that brings forth the Christ. It might be far more simple for some very deep-dyed sinner to attain the Christ than for a very good person, for the reason that you can understand that the sinner is so aware of the fact that I of my own self am nothing, I am unworthy, I am the least of these, I am undeserving. That person has so emptied themselves that they are all ready to be filled with the Christ. Whereas, as a rule, if we are living a fairly good human life, we are apt to get the idea, well, I am good, I deserve to have this blessing. I really have worked for it, and I deserve it. I have worked hard for it, and I deserve it. Well, it does not come that way. It comes by grace, and that grace can only come in proportion as we are emptied out when there is no self to be good. As long as there is a trace of belief that we are good, that we are deserving, that we are worthy, in that degree we are setting up a barrier for the entrance of the Christ. Because the Christ does not come while our vessel is already full of ourself and of our goodness. The Christ comes when we are so emptied of ourself that we have renounced our evil, and we have renounced our good, and we have made ourselves completely empty, so that in the future, when anyone says to us, how good you are, how benevolent you are, how kind you are, how loving, that you can answer and say, why callest thou me good? You know right well this is the Spirit of God that is working through me. It is really folly for anyone to claim any wisdom, any charitableness, any morality, any integrity, as if it were of themselves, because in most cases we do not know whether we would have that if the right temptation came along. You know, people who fall for different temptations, they do not fall for just any temptation that comes along. It has to be the one. And somebody has said that every man has his price. You just have to find what that price is. You know, a few years ago in one of our medical reports, they found out that almost all of us commit adultery at least once in our life. Well, that was the report anyhow, and it may not be true of everyone, but they found it to be true of an awful lot of people, that they met their one temptation at least once. Even if you have not been tempted, you are in no position to say that there is no form of temptation that could not, at the right moment, if it came at the right moment, prove to be one too much. Therefore, it behooves nobody to believe that our goodness is the goodness of ourself, that we are good. If we have reached the point where we do know that we are absolutely above any possibility of falling for any temptation, then we must also know that it is not because of myself, but because of something greater than myself that functions within me. You have heard me say this from the first moment that you first opened a book of truth. I do not care what school of truth it was. From the first moment that you started reading, from that moment the old man began dying, and the new man began the rebirth. In other words, the old consciousness began to disappear, and the new consciousness began to appear. It was not noticeable. You could not notice it. You could not see at first that any change took place. But one day, somebody said, "Oh, isn't the weather terrible? You are bound to catch cold now." And automatically your thought jumped. Why? Why? You had already caught the glimpse that the power was not out there in a germ, or in the weather, or in the climate. And in that degree, the new consciousness had been born. or in one way or another, an appearance of error made itself evident in your experience, and you were able to say, no, it does not have power, or it is not power, or it does not have jurisdiction over me. In that glimpse, you can be assured that it was your new consciousness talking, not the old. Because the old consciousness is fearful of everything from the tiniest germ up to the biggest bomb. But as the new consciousness develops, you automatically reject every suggestion of a power in form or effect, or a power apart from God. Or perhaps one day the appearance of an evil person may come your way, and you reject it and realize, no man is evil. Evil is an impersonal thing. Every man is born of God. That statement, that thought, came forth from your new consciousness, not from the old, because the old one is the one that judges, criticizes, and condemns. And as you go along in the development of your new consciousness, the new man, your new self, your higher self, you can later watch your progress by the degree in which you are no longer fearing anything in the external world, and the degree in which you are no longer judging, criticizing, or condemning in the external world. The process of dying daily and of being reborn is really the process of taking in metaphysical, spiritual truths. Every time that you add some metaphysical or spiritual truth to your awareness, you have increased the measure of the new man. You have decreased the measure of the old man. You may still see no effects from it, because the whole experience is cumulative. The entire experience is one in which, let us say, if you give 1 hour a day to truth reading and meditating for a year, you are going to find in the next year some measure of either greater harmony or less discord. If you give 4 hours each day for a year, you are going to find in your second year that much more of harmony and that much less of discord. In one of our Christmas letters, I wrote that it is folly to say Happy New Year to you. It is folly, meaningless. It is just as meaningless to say, I hope you will have a good New Year. Why? Because you have already determined what your New Year is going to be. You created your New Year last year. The degree that you gave to truth determines the degree of harmony next year. The degree that you did not give to truth determines the amount of discord that can come into your experience next year. We are building our lives every day of our experience. As ye sow, so shall ye reap. As ye sow when? As ye sow this minute. Now is the time. Let us not talk about the past. Let us not talk about the future. We are interested only in one time, and that time is now. And it is now that I am building my tomorrows, my next years, all my succeeding years. With what I am doing in my consciousness now, I am determining my future. There is no use anybody wishing me a Happy New Year if I am not building a new year. There is no use of anyone wishing that I have a good year if I am not building that good year. Because the Master saw so clearly, although he was not the originator of it, it has been known from the beginning of religious history that as ye sow, so shall ye reap. If you sow to the flesh, you will reap corruption. Now, nobody invented this. It was just discovered centuries upon centuries ago that if you sow to the flesh, you reap corruption. What does that mean, sowing to the flesh? It just means that if you are going to make your body the end and aim of existence, if you are giving power to form, if you are giving power to material sense, if you are relying on material good, you are sowing to the flesh. You are only sowing to the spirit in the degree that you are transferring power from the outer realm to the inner, in the degree in which you say, no, my consciousness is my supply, my consciousness is my health, my consciousness is my good. Why? Because God has planted in me his Son, whose mission it is to heal the sick, raise the dead, feed the hungry. This Son, this Christ, is embodied in every individual. I have meat the world knows not of. I have this hidden Christ, this hidden manna. If I abide in this truth, if I abide in the spiritual word, I will bear fruit richly. If I do not abide in this word, I will be as a branch of a tree that is cut off, withers, and dies. Now, who is going to make my Happy New Year for me? Who but myself? And how? By whether or not I abide in the word, or whether I decide to live by bread alone. Whether or not I decide that my amusements are going to be all of the external variety. It does not mean that we should not enjoy music or theater or art or literature, whatever it is that is given to us. It only means not to live by these exclusively. You must live by the Word, and the Word is the indwelling Christ, the indwelling Spirit of God, and placing my reliance there. Not placing my reliance outside in a bank account, not placing my reliance outside in my family, not placing my reliance outside for external pleasures, but reserving some period of every day for the realization the kingdom of God is within me. The Son of God, the Christ, dwelleth in me, and its function is to manifest as harmony, peace, in every avenue of my experience. If I abide in that spiritual word, and I let that word abide in me, I can be pretty sure that next year is going to be a nice year. It may have some problems in it, but remember, I also have the antidote for the problem. I may have some problems. We have not reached such a high degree yet of Christ consciousness that we avoid all of the mesmerisms of human sense. But at least we have a remedy. At least we have an antidote. At least we have something to which we can have recourse. So it is that we are building our Christ consciousness in this minute, in this room. We are building it, number one, because we are abiding in the spiritual word. Number two, because we are two or more gathered together in the very name and nature of the spiritual word. Number three, because some of us here have gone one step higher than others, and those of us who are one step higher lift the others unto us. It may be that there are some here who have gone higher than we have, and then they are lifting us up to their height. We never know who is outside there, and it may well be that someone with a highly evolved consciousness is sitting out there and lifting us to their level. This is the advantage of coming together, two or more gathered in this spiritual name. You can be assured of this. We are developing the new man in us. In proportion as we are, the old man is dying. If between now and midnight some of these words come back to your consciousness, and you allow them to have a place in your consciousness, You are adding to the work that has been done here now. And in that degree, the new man is increasing in you, and the old man is decreasing in you. Then tomorrow comes along. To what extent do you permit spiritual truth to occupy your consciousness? Not merely in reading. I must caution you about that. Not merely in reading. It is not the reading in and of itself that will develop your consciousness alone, but what you do with what you read. In other words, in the application. You may read a whole chapter of a wonderful book, and now if you leave your home and you witness some form of sin or disease or false appetite, and you pass it by without ministering to it, you are losing the opportunity of developing the new man in you and letting the old man die. If you are going to accept the appearance, the old man is still living in you. But if, when you see sin, disease, lack, or accident, if you let these words of truth live in you, and then you say, I must not accept appearances, I must accept God as omnipresence. Not only you may heal someone or uplift them or reform them or forgive them, but some part of your old man has died in that moment. Some part of the old man in you has died in the moment that you applied a truth specifically. That truth came alive in you, but it could only come out of the new man. It cannot come out of the old man, because there is no truth in the old man. There is no truth in him at all. He is not under the law of God, neither indeed can be. Now in your family life, there is not one of us that needs hide the fact that we all know the irritations of family life. I'm sure there is not anyone in this room who has not felt it. There has to be. The very closeness of living with 2, 3, or 4 humans, that close to you, breeds irritations. But the old man is living a constant complaint about it, allowing himself to be influenced by the outer conditions, responding to it with complaints and irritations. But in proportion as a word of truth can come into your consciousness and you say, oh no, that is a little sample of the old man. Oh no, there is an indwelling Christ in me, in him, in her. In that degree you have shown forth the new man that is developing in you. In proportion then, as you no longer react to the appearance, as it humanly is, in that degree can you tell how rapidly you are dying to the old man and being reborn to the new. In the same way you have your newspapers, your radio, your television, and so you get all the news of the day. You can tell the degree of your progress by your reaction to the news. If you are fearing all the bad news, the old man is very much in charge of you. If you have come to the point of saying, yes, that is the human scene, the carnal mind, but fortunately my life is dependent on God. Fortunately, I know that all life, real life, is dependent on God, not on man. Fortunately, I know that in the last analysis, nobody is going to find a system of making all of us prosperous. Therefore, I do not have to fear what these men are fooling around with. My individual prosperity is going to be the showing forth of my state of consciousness. There have been men who became millionaires in panic time, and there have been men who were millionaires and went broke in boom times. The times do not make you wealthy or poor. It is what is taking place in your own consciousness that makes you wealthy or poor. So if you are fearing the common market, or fearing not the common market, if you are fearing the new administration, or fearing not the new administration, you are reacting. The old man is working in you. But if you can read all of this news and say, my fate is not dependent on man whose breath is in his nostrils, My fate is dependent on the degree of God consciousness I attain. The new man has been born in you and is being developed. So you see that we really are passing from the stage of the old man to the stage of the new man. The state of the natural man who is not under the law of God, to the state of that man who has his being in Christ, who is under the law of God. We are passing in proportion to the effort, the time, the devotion that we give to our spiritual studies, meditations, and practice. Of course, it is true that one touch of the Spirit in meditation can lift you over a 1,000-year period. You can encompass 1,000 years of progress in a second if that meditation touches you in the right way. You can die as Saul of Tarsus did in one moment. You can die and be reborn in the next minute as St. Paul. Many have had the same experience. Many, many, many have had the experience of dying in a moment. And you can be assured, those who died in a moment had much preparation before it in seeking truth. But the point is that every bit of preparation, every bit of scriptural study, every bit of metaphysical practice in which we are denying the reality of power in the external and affirming the all-power of our consciousness, every bit of that is leading us to a moment when meditation can take place and we jump forward 1,000 years in spiritual development. The point that I would make is this, that until such time you have no real way of knowing what progress you are making. No real way, because these truths are being embodied in our consciousness. They are stored up. We are storing up treasures in heaven. And until something brings them forth, we may not even realize that they are there. It reminds me of an experience in my first year of practice. A man came to me from a church, badly crippled with arthritis, and in a few months' time he had a beautiful healing. Evidently, there was this lady in his church who was also crippled with arthritis and wanted very much to be healed. However, she was one of these dear old church-type ladies. They brought her to my office, and I began to talk to her about her spiritual identity, assuring her that she was the child of God. She nearly took my head off. I am a poor worm in the dust. I am not fit to touch the hem of his robe. Do not talk to me that way. This is a sin. Well, I said, I must tell you the truth. That is not the truth. I know what I am. Well, this was my first year of practice, and I can assure you that I was eager to see every opportunity for healing work. So I did not want her to get away from me. I said, I will tell you what we will do. We will not talk truth anymore. We will just have silent prayers. That was good, because she would not have to hear any more of that. She was brought to my office one day every week, and I would never speak to her anymore, just have our silent treatment. Well, one day, in the midst of winter, she was leaving the building, and going through a revolving door, her foot touched a piece of ice, and she went right through and on out into the middle of the road. The doorman, sensing a lawsuit, ran out to pick her up, and she said, "Do not touch me, do not touch me, I am the child of God." Well, she telephoned me the next day that her arthritis was all gone. She was feeling fine, but she felt that she had committed such a sin in making that remark that she never would come back again. Now, this is what I mean by cumulative. Once an idea touches your consciousness, you may not know it is there, but some emergency comes up, and out it comes, this that has been latent within you. You cannot believe for a minute that you are reading as many Infinite Way books as have been written, not counting all the others you may have read. and not know that truth is lodging itself in your consciousness. It is. And in doing that, it is transforming you. You are being renewed inwardly day by day with every bit of truth that you take into your consciousness. It is growing in there in a cumulative way, and gradually the time comes when you can look back and see parts of yourself that are now dead. Sometimes I think back, and I can see myself sitting in a room playing cards with men and smoking cigars, and I say, that could not have been me. That must have been two other people. And it could not have been me. Really, it could not, because I could not any more do that than I could jump off the roof. And I will not do that. I could not do those other things. That was not me. That is a memory that I am retaining of somebody I once knew, and fortunately he is dead and buried, and I have nothing left but a memory. Now there are other parts of me too that I can look back on and see that they are dead. Fears, doubts, many fears. Because when you are in the human consciousness, almost everything in this world is to be feared. Taking an automobile drive is to be feared. So many things are to be feared. But that man is gone, so with you. Unless you can look back 5 years, 7 years, 10 years, you cannot possibly know the parts of you that have died. In the same way, we have some students in the States, one that I am thinking of now who is very close to her 90th birthday, and she traveled a long, long distance, thousands of miles, to come to our last class in Hawaii. Talking with her one day, she said, "You know, what embarrasses me is the people who come to me and say I am so wonderful, I am so wonderful for my age. But you see, I am not any different than I was 40 years ago." And of course she is not. She has no consciousness of time, no consciousness of age, and so it does not seem to her to be a miracle. To others who expect 90 to be halfway buried, it is a miracle. So it is, you can have no way of knowing what your progress is. There is only one thing that you can measure, and that is your integrity. You can measure that. You know right well whether you are cheating with time, effort, devotion to your spiritual studies. You know that.
So that's a very specific part to stop. I recognize this. But it's all right too. So you know when you're cheating, you know when you're not, huh? Yeah, but you also know when you fully give yourself to it, because it's like in the moment, what you give, you receive back. So if your dedication or integration is total in a moment, then that comes back to you as an experience. So that's really lovely. So thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for being with me in this 7th key lesson. And that's like the body as end or means. And I thought it was a great talk that Joel did for the second time, which is interesting, of course. So you see also that once your consciousness is touched by spirit, by truth, it's like as if you skip 1,000 years of human suffering. And this comes back to me many times. It's like, yeah, that's really like time is coming together. It's collapsing by you allowing yourself to be touched by spirit. And this is why it's like it is not depending on time. That is why this lady, so-called of 90 years old, still feels like she's not an old lady like that. No, it's definitely not. She's fully alive. Her consciousness isn't touched by time. Neither is yours. Your consciousness is not touched by time. No, it's touched by spirit, if you allow that. So that's so great. Like that takes away all the concern about age and all this. It's like, no, imagine this, that literally your body doesn't get older in that sense. And that is truly as an experience too. It's like it doesn't get older. No, if you practice this and let the joy of God come to you, you actually start to look younger. Now this, you see that happen right in front of you. It's like that's really great to recognize each other in that. Like it is nothing to do with aging or anything. No, it's like your ability to love doesn't stop. It's not depending on age. It has nothing to do with age. So that's really lovely. So in other words, everything that is real is forever. Everything that is real will always be with you, is always what you truly are, and has nothing to do with your definitions or evaluations of yourself. All right, so thank you so much for being part of this 7th key lesson, and I hope to see you next week. And then the USA participants will also have a time change, but hey, what's an hour? It's nothing. So I hope to see you in time in the 8th key lesson that we're going to take a look at. Thank you for everything, and bye for now.